if you don't feel that you're good enough to have something, you can talk yourself out of it 10 times out of 10. There's opportunity out there to not only, of course, get more business, but help the people that have helped you. It's going to require a lot of discipline, crystal clear on where I need to go, when I need to go, and why.
Welcome to episode 3 of MIKE DROPP. Today I am with the one and only Marc Harbour. How are you, Marc?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, tell us first, where are you from in case anybody out there has referrals that they can send your way?
Good old Fredericksburg, Virginia. We're, a little bit of a, we're a little bit of a mixture of Northern Virginia and Richmond. So we pretty much cover everywhere in Virginia. But yeah, so we're in a pretty central location. We're in a good spot.
Gotcha. So how long have you been a real estate agent?
This January will be 10 years.
Wow, 10 years. And what did you do before you were in real estate?
I stocked shelves at a grocery store.
Wow.
Particularly frozen foods. I made pizza. I pushed the carts. I did everything. I did a little bit of everything.
So tell me something. Pushing carts at a grocery store, what does that typically pay? Or at least for you back in the day?
I remember I remember coming home to my wife and being so excited that I got a 30-cent raise, and I was at $14.50 an hour. I was
an hour. Wow.
I was pumped.
So what made you go from stocking shelves to say, you know what, I want to test out real estate?
Well, it kind of was a progressing thing. I have real estate in my family. My father-in-law is my broker. And I remember, I've been with my wife now for, coming up on 14 years. So we met when she was a freshman in high school and I was a sophomore. So I remember we were getting ready to go out to the movies one day, and she turns around and asks her dad for money. And this guy, he pulls out just a wad of $100 bills and just starts flipping through and goes, well, how much do you need? I was like, we're only going to go see a movie.
Right.
But so then that kind of,
we're going to go buy a movie.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know, but so that's what kind of planted the seed a little bit. And I kind of asked him what he did, and he said, I'm a real estate broker. I sell houses. So it's always been a little bit of an idea. I knew at a certain point, and if I can go into it in a little bit, but I know there was a certain point when I was at the grocery store stocking shelves and stuff that there was this one day where I just knew that I wasn't going to do this anymore. So then that's just what kind of sparked everything. And I approached him about getting my license. And then, from there, I took the class. It took me 4 times to pass the test.
But I mean, obviously you're going from stocking shelves or getting into real estate because, so many people are wanting to get into real estate. I mean, what did you think real estate agents did before you actually started? Because everyone has $1 million real estate and, basically all these TV shows. So what did you think it was like to be an actual real estate agent? Because most people don't realize what you think real estate is and what you actually do at the highest level is normally 2 different things.
They're very much 2 different things. I was a big fan, just like a lot of people, of the $1 million listing, New York and LA, and you look at these guys and you're looking at a 1-hour episode and you're seeing them make $500,000 commissions, and you're just like, I could totally deal with a couple crazy people and I could do this. So I thought it was, you go in, you have a nice suit, you go in, you talk to people for a little bit, you walk out with big checks, and life is good. It didn't take me very long to realize that was not the case.
So what did your first year look like in terms of transactions and what you started to actually do?
My first year I did 1 deal. Started in 2015. So my first year I did like 1 deal. I'll never forget this woman, sweet as can be. She showed up to the appointment, no shoes on. I mean, just hopped out of her car, no shoes on. I mean, just sweet as could be. She was quite the character, but sweet as could be. The following year, I did 10. And then the following year, I did a little bit more. But yeah, the very first year, I remember I felt like I got a raise because I got a check for like $900 for working that deal. And I was like, I went home to my wife and I was like, we're going out tonight. So it was,
We're going to Outback tonight.
yeah, I was like, I was like, get your nice clothes on. We're going to Texas Roadhouse. Not that there's anything wrong with Texas Roadhouse, and that's where we went.
So what was your mindset like the first year, only selling one house? I mean, what were you thinking? How did you
I was,
stay in the game long enough? Because most people would be like, God, one deal, I quit.
I'll be honest with you. And I've been thinking about what I might say if I was asked that. And I really wasn't taking a lot of time to think about anything. The only thing was that I knew I had to succeed because I had basically demoted myself at the grocery store and I was only working part time. So I was working 20, 25 hours a week there. And then I, went and transitioned into real estate. So I knew that I had two choices. I was either going to let my wife and my then, one child, that's since quadrupled since then. But my one child, then I was like, we're either gonna starve or I'm gonna succeed. So, and I just didn't see us losing and not making it as an option. So that's that. I really wasn't thinking about a whole lot. The only mindset that I had was I anything that looked like a deal, I turned over every rock. I I looked everywhere, and I was working. I don't know. I want to say 20 hours a day. It felt like.
I was working 30 hours a day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've had the fortune of coaching you the last couple of years. I mean, what made you reach out? I guess it was what, 3, 4 years ago, and reach out to me.
Yeah. I remember, you know, a time where my broker was he was telling me a story about a guy that he knew that was doing really well in real estate. So and so then, of course, I got curious, and I get on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm looking for this person, and then out comes you, and I'm like, all right, this is the guy, this is the legend that was going to take over Heartland Realty at the time. So what I ended up doing was I followed you. I was watching. I think at the time you had somebody working for you that was filming you a little bit on the phone,
Right.
and I was like, I would have never thought to say something like that. And so it just intrigued me. And then you started offering the service, and I knew that it was definitely something that I needed to do.
Gotcha. So, what are things, probably 2 or 3 things that you picked up the first year that we were working together?
Oh boy, definitely believing that it's possible.
Mhm.
Because you often think that by watching these rich people on TV that they somehow got there just because of one little opportunity or is because of one person that they knew, but in reality it was because they took a lot of time and worked really, really, really hard to figure out their systems, processes, the right people. So believing that it was possible that I could be something like that was one big thing. But then it was you gave me a really rude awakening that I was doing a lot of things the hard way. Like I was, so you put me onto a lot of new systems and processes and how to make the job easier so that I could do more with the same amount of time.
Absolutely.
So I would definitely say that, but if I had to pick the biggest thing, it was mindset, my
Yeah.
mind. I was no longer in a little box. I pretty after we started, I kind of realized that if I wanted it to be, the world could be mine. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So many people don't realize that. I mean, mindset is probably the most important thing that dictates how good an agent can be. Because if you don't believe something's possible, you're never going to go out and put all of the time and energy to actually doing that. Now, I know obviously we started to increase the amount of contacts. What was that like going from, like, I think you were doing like 8 or 10 contacts a day, and then you jump up to 40 or 50? What was that like, getting rejected more and more, and obviously starting to learn the scripts and dialogues? Because so many people out there don't realize that if you want to grow your business, you have to grow the amount of people that you talk to every day. So what was that process like of having to dramatically increase the amount of people that you talk to, but obviously at the same time, you're dramatically increasing the amount of rejection you get, which is normally the hardest part for a lot of real estate agents?
That's a really good question. And I think the reason it's hard for most real estate agents is because they're not prepared and they don't know what to say when something is said to them. As I started to learn exactly what to say, exactly where to go when someone would say a certain thing, it honestly became fun. It became and it's still a thing for me today. There's something about calling somebody who wasn't expecting you to call them, and 48 hours later, you're in their dining room getting a listing agreement signed. And it's like, had I not gone out and just, made that call, because a lot of, it can be nerve wracking to make those calls because you never know who's on the other line. But I think that the more I learned what to say and how to say it, when to say it, then it honestly became more fun for me. And I saw that the numbers game actually made sense because, talk to 40, 50 people a day with the right skills. I mean, you're talking some serious work.
Yeah, I think so many people underestimate the power of repetition. If you go out and make 40, 50, 60, 100 contracts a day, you do that 5 days a week, and then you do that for 4 weeks, and you do that for 10 months out of the year as you take 2 months for vacation and various things. They underestimate how much power that is in terms of just the compounding effect. I see where you were when we started, and now, I mean, there probably isn't many people that could ask you a question or objection that you probably wouldn't be able to come back and answer. Would that be fair?
I would say so. And typically, even if I get stumped, what do I do? Pick the phone up and call my coach.
And I think one of the things that so many people forget is that during the process of becoming a successful agent, there is a series of breakdowns and then obviously a series of breakthroughs. I think we were working together maybe a year, maybe 14 months. And I remember you calling me one day and we're just having a complete mental breakdown. I remember you saying you wanted to go to Virginia Beach and you wanted to go be by yourself and you wanted to stop coaching and I remember me and you just got in this huge fight because here I am trying to fight to save your real estate career and you're just fighting to try to figure out how to get in a breakdown. So I mean, what was that like for you in that moment? Because again, so many people forget that real estate does not just go like this. It is a progressive series of breakdowns, but ultimately at the end of every breakdown is obviously a breakthrough, which you had. But what was that first breakdown like for you? What were you feeling? Because I think so many people out there, they may be in the same place because, you're going good, good, good. And then it's like, boom.
And really, it's when that drop happens, a lot of times you may be having a hard time trying to figure out why. Because I had everything that I said that I wanted, or I was starting to get everything that I said that I wanted. But I guess when you're just nonstop calling, nonstop prospecting, clients are coming in, you realize that at a certain point you're having if I could put a word on it, there were growing pains.
Of course.
And I remember going to pick my kids up from school going like, I'm so overwhelmed. And the only thing that I could think to say to you was, I have 1,000 things going on. Like I've got 1,000 things. And you were like, respectfully, you've got a couple of deals under contract, which is good, but I promise you don't have a million things going on. So a part of that was feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, and then just saying, you know what, I just need to get away and just stop all the momentum that I've been getting. Because, momentum is, and that's another thing that I've learned is that it's so hard to get, but it's even harder to keep.
Yeah.
And at that point, I wasn't even realizing I was killing my own momentum. But it was a lot of feeling of overwhelmed. And then after we had our phone call, which probably lasted for, I don't know, an hour, 20 minutes. And then you finally got so irritated with me that you just hung up because you couldn't possibly bring yourself to carry on the conversation.
But you were just in learned helplessness. You were actually saying, you know what, I might just go back and stock shelves. And I'm like, wow, okay. Make a couple of $100,000, go back and make, $14 an hour. I mean, you were just in a breakdown state, which you have to realize that's part of the process. I mean, even at this stage of real estate, we all have breakdowns. There's nothing wrong with breakdowns. Breakdowns make you stronger, and then they give you the opportunity to have breakthroughs. But so many people don't understand that if you don't get past whatever you're going through, instead of it being a small chapter, it becomes the book. I see so many people that have breakdowns, and that just becomes the rest of their life. So how did you get out of that?
Well, I got out of it by continuing to do the thing that I was doing when, before I went off to the beach and, got a hotel for a weekend, because what I found is that when I was leaving, I didn't feel any better because I knew I was going back home to all the same things that I had before. They didn't just go away. So I think that's one thing when you're in that process of melting down, is that you have to realize that running away or going somewhere for a weekend, it sounds like it would help, but all you're doing is going right back home to the same amount of workload, same issues, because it's really not so much what's going on around you. It's, I've heard you say this for years, and I've kind of like embedded it in me, is that don't wish it was easier, wish you were better.
Absolutely.
So that's
hung up on you. I remember telling you that no matter where you go, you are taking you with you. And that's the truth. People think that by running and hiding, it'll make it easy. And the truth is you're taking you with you. So unless you can find a way to not take you along that ride, it's going to be the same. You'll just be miserable by yourself in a different place. So let me ask you, if you could go back in time and talk to that guy as I was that day, we switch roles. I'm Mark, I'm breaking down. You get to be me. What do you think you would tell that kid right now that's having a complete breakdown if you could go back and talk to him?
Realistically, if I was trying to help myself, then I would say, this is what is supposed to happen. I know it feels like that it's not, that this is not supposed to be it, and you're supposed to just be swimming in money like all the guys on TV, and everything's just supposed to be fine all the time. But this is a part of the process, and this is how it happens. Because if, that's the thing with, if you can't handle, the pressure and the work of 20 deals, then you really can't handle 50. So I knew if I could go back, I would say, if you think that this is hard, just wait until you get to this level, or when you get to the next level, because it's going to keep getting harder, but this is a part of the process. And by the way, you don't have a million things to do. You have a million thoughts going through your head. So that would be probably top 2 or 3 things I would tell myself, is that I know it feels like you've got a million things to do, but you don't. You just have a million thoughts going through your head. And if you actually stop, call your coach, and then he'll be, that's what coaching is for. In those times, because you've been, there's been times where I've called you at 10:30 at night, not even knowing if you'd pick up or not. I mean, you'd probably be sleeping, but you picked up anyway. And, we've had those talks of slow down and just focus on what is like in front of you. And if you actually sit down and break it down, you actually realize you've got 2 or 3 big things that you're trying to get done at once. It's not 300, it's 3. Yeah. So, so I would tell myself, it's not a million things going on. It's a million thoughts going through your head. And this is a part of the process, because you could just go back to, going on the frozen food trucks, at like -10 degrees at 4:00 in the morning if you want to. But I think that where you're going is going to be a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, outside of just your production that I've been proud of, is just how you've been able to really refine, your marriage and your relationship. Because, one of the things I try to tell everyone when I first start coaching them is that you have to get your spouse on board, your partner. They have to see like what's in it for them, because you basically are exchanging time with them every day to create a business. And if you don't make that time valuable, what happens is that eventually you have to choose between them and what you do. And I remember when we first started, we were talking, and obviously, your relationship in terms of how do you manage a business and relationship, are probably where it wasn't where you wanted it to be. So what do you think changed over the last couple of years that allowed you to really refine building a business, but also building a healthy relationship with your wife?
Well, a couple of different things. That's a really good question because I kind of wish that she was on this podcast right now to be able to like agree with me. But 2019 was probably one of the worst years of our marriage. And if you mention the year 2019, like she breaks out in a rash, so she just can't. I mean, it was terrible. We were at each other's throats because it was always, I'm working, I'm working, I'm working. But it was, she didn't quite see, and this was, and I take full responsibility because it's my job to do this, but she wasn't seeing the result and the reward of me being gone for as much as I was. And, you know, I firmly believe that if your wife is going to watch you leave in the morning and not see you till late at night, and that keeps happening over and over and over again, and then the reward is kind of like nothing. We can't go to Disney. You know, we need to move up in house. We need a bigger house, or, you know, I need a new car. So if it's not necessarily about the things, but it's about her seeing that when I go out every day, I'm, you know, I'll use a phrase, I'm going out and killing something and dragging it home.
Yeah, if you don't bring the kill, you know, they're going to be angry.
Yeah, and they would much rather, if they start to feel like that there's no point in you leaving, and they would much rather have you home every day and be poor with you than the idea of being rich and you never being there.
Yeah, 100%. I think so many people forget that if you ask your partner honestly, would you rather have less money and more time with me, or see less of me and have more money? Most of them would say, stay home and be poor. So we have to remember that it's our dream, not theirs.
Right. And the other thing I think is, it's the person that you become when you can start to emotionally and mentally handle the workload, handle the home life. She started to kind of see me change into a different person, not just at work, but at home with our kids. So, you know, if I can be a leader in the office and I can be a leader with my clients, you know, it just kind of for me anyway, it just sort of translated into being a better leader at home. You know, and if anyone knows my wife, you know, she's very okay with being led, but led in a certain soft way. So if the better I became at my work and with my job and with my clients, you know, I just started to carry that same attitude and not really give my family leftovers when I get home. They still get 100% me, and I'm just able to be a better leader because she actually sees that I'm a much better provider. So it all just kind of works with itself.
I mean, one of the coolest things, I remember she sent me an Instagram one day and was just like, thank you for helping turn Mark into a man and helping our relationship. And I think you all had just bought the new house that you all had wanted. I mean, that's just one of the coolest things about coaching people, is watching people grow their business, but more importantly, be able to grow their relationships. Because the reason we go out and do what we do is to be able to provide our family and all the people we love with an amazing life. So to see you be able to create that has been one of the coolest things.
And you know what's funny? I mean, she'll probably tell me now, but she never told me that she sent you that message. So I think that's part of that's one of the coolest parts, is that she genuinely felt that, and she didn't even tell me about it. She just felt the need so much to reach out to you to say that. So, you know, I remember when you told me, I was just, you know, that probably the biggest one of the biggest compliments that my wife has ever given me, and she didn't even tell me about it. So it's funny how that works.
Well, yeah, I know that really is. So fast forward now, you know, you're on track to make 500 grand this year. What has changed in your business from that guy to the person you are now?
Well, systems, processes, you know, and I'm learning a lot better, and I'm able to kind of fast track it now. Like, for example, right now I'm in the midst of finding a new full-time assistant, which, you know, how long have you been telling me that I need to do that? Everybody needs to listen to their coach. Basically, that's the point of this call, and that's the point of this podcast. Everyone needs to listen to their coach.
All right, well, stop. Let's just soak in that moment for a second. So obviously we've talked about getting an assistant since, you know, March. So here we are 4 or 5 months later. Why do you think it was so hard for you to execute what you know you needed to do? Because so many people know they need to change, they need to do things, but they don't do it. What stopped you from doing something that I can see, but yet you don't feel?
Well, it goes back to one of the first things that I said, is believing, is kind of believing in yourself. If you don't feel that you're good enough to have something, you can talk yourself out of it 10 times out of 10. So a little bit of it was not feeling that I was good enough or, quote unquote, ready for someone to cover me for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I mean, I'm going to pay that person. And what am I going to do? And you're like, you're going to generate more business with that time. That's what you're going to do. Like you wanted to you jump through the phone and just strangle me. So, but and then looking back at the other people that I've had work with me in the past, we all peacefully parted ways, but of course we parted ways for a reason. And it was just because I felt that, because I hadn't found the right person, that I felt, well, there's just no point in having somebody like that because I've tried, 3 or 4 different people and it hasn't worked. But when you can take a good hard look in the mirror at yourself and then understand that it's your fault, then that of course helps. So, I'm taking the right steps now. You've been so involved and helpful. But I've got 3 or 4 really, really good candidates. So I'm hoping that by the end of next week, I should have somebody hired and ready to go.
So what are probably 2 or 3 things that between now and the end of the year, that you really need to work at to basically have a breakout year next year? Because I mean, I really believe you could do 100 deals a year if you actually had an assistant and did all the things that you actually are capable of doing every day.
Honestly, delegating and really finding the right person to do the right things that need to be done to help me to then have the time to generate the business, because it's never been a problem. I can get on the phone and I can dice people up and I can talk to them all day, but it's when you're spending more time than what you should on non money generating activities, then that's where you get really hurt. And that's where I tripped up a couple of months this year. And you told me the other day, and I remember you were on speakerphone and my wife was standing right there and you were like, man, it's just, I really just want you to get it together because you just left so much money on the table this year. My wife's looking at me like, really? How much money have you left on the table this year? Right. So,
I mean, honestly, you probably would make an extra 200, 250,000 this year if you had actually just done some of the things that we talked about. One of the things as a coach is that I can see things that you can't see in advance because, I mean, I've done it for 24 years. The number one goal as a coach is to try to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes. But sometimes I'm starting to see that sometimes people have to make the mistakes so that they can actually learn. The thing is that part of coaching is that how fast can you actually adapt to what the coach says?
right. And I'm here to tell you as a testament, everybody watching, that the quicker you listen to your coach, the more money that you'll make. You'll have more success in the shortest amount of time if you just listen to your coach.
Yeah, because obviously now one of the things that we're really working to build is your database. Because one of the most
Right.
underutilized things in real estate is a database. Why do you think it's been hard for you to get that part of your business really going the way that it should?
Honestly, time and organization, having the attitude of, well, I'll just have someone do some paperwork and stuff for me and I'll be able to do everything else myself. No problem. And it's hindered me from being able to have the database the way that I need it to be, because, once you really dive in and think about it, you're me not doing that in the time and the way that I should have been, it's not good for my past clients. They're missing out on potentially, getting some services from me and hearing from me. And, maybe they have a question about a contractor or something that I'm just, I'm not able to provide the best level of service. So once you kind of realize that it's not just about oh man, I got to get this thing organized. There's opportunity out there to not only, of course, get more business, but help the people that have helped you.
I
So
think so many people don't call their past clients centers of influence because they look at that person. And don't get me wrong, that person is valuable, but the real value with your past clients and centers of influence are all the people they know. I mean, statistically, every person knows 6 to 10 people a year that are going to buy and sell. The problem is that they don't think about you when they hear it. So, when you got a database of a couple hundred people and you're not calling, you literally are losing 40 to 50 transactions a year if you actually did. And it's funny that when people say they don't have the time, that's why they don't have the time, because they're going to have to call 10 times as many people they don't know versus calling people they do know. I mean, it is literally insanity to have a database of people you know, like, and trust, and to spend the majority of your day calling people that do not know you versus the people that do know you. So how are
right.
you going to switch your mindset in the next 6 months so that going into next year, you can get a large portion of your business from your database?
Well, the mindset's just got to be 100% go, go, go. I got to keep my head down. Once I find the right person, which I'm confident that I will, like I told you, I've got 3 to 4 really good people that seem like they could be a really good fit. Finding the right person, getting them in the office, doing their onboarding, and then from there, kind of allowing them to kind of sort of take the wheel so that the database can be fully completed and that we can start this year, not waiting until January, but we start in September, October, really kind of hammering down on the systems and processes needed for the database so that we can start 2025 off right versus, and already have the momentum going into next year versus starting in January and starting to see results in March or April of next year. So it's going to require a lot of discipline, maybe a little bit of sleep, just a little bit. But really just being focused and disciplined on where I'm trying to go. But, it's right now, it's one of the times in my career where I've never been more crystal clear on where I need to go, when I need to go, and why. So, yeah, I would say discipline and focus, two big things. That's where my mindset's got to be.
I mean, I think in the last month or two, I think is the first time since we've been working together that I really started to see you think big and start to really come up with like a why. Why do I want to do this? Like, what can I give my family? What can I do? What kind of lifestyle can I have? Because, unless you have a reason to go out and do something, you're never disciplined. Like I had someone the other day that had sent a message on YouTube and saying, I've always had trouble being disciplined. And my response back is the reason you've always had trouble being disciplined is you probably never had a reason to be disciplined. If you don't want more out of your life, then discipline is not an issue. So, I mean, what do you think for you changed in the last month or two where now you're starting to actually look bigger at what you want out of your life, what you can create, and what you want to give your family? Because I've noticed a big shift in the last 30 days with you.
First off, I think it's realizing that that there's a next level. The hardest time and this is going to probably sound ridiculous to a certain point, but I've almost felt that I never thought I would get to where I'm at as quickly as I did. So I never took the time to think bigger than where I'm at now, and where my family's at and where my business is at. So just trying to break outside of that box where it's like, stop feeling like I've arrived and realize that, take some time to appreciate how far I've come, which you try to, tell me and, pound into my head all the time, which is fine. Take some time to be grateful and be happy about how far you've come, but realize that, you're halfway up the ladder. There's still more to do, and there's more to go. And then aside from that, watching my family grow, we're got baby number 4 on the way. My brother, I have a 1-year-old niece that she just turned 1. They're wanting to have more kids. So kind of watching my family growing and realizing that, how big of an honor would it be, 30 years from now, maybe when, my parents aren't around, and my wife's parents aren't around, to be that person in the family that holds and lifts everybody up. And it's hard to do that when you're mentally struggling, your business is, okay or possibly failing, and you don't make the kind of money, or you don't have the kind of income, to do that. It's not that money is what lifts up others, but it's not only the income. But I mean, imagine growing into this person that everybody comes to when they need something, and being able to uplift the entire family and being that person. So um, once you once I realized that I can go higher than where I've gotten, um, and how wonderful it would be to be able to be like that, a big family man and a big family person, and be able to help and take care of everybody in the family one day, then, it just did something for me. So I think that if you had to ask me, that's what my why is. Number one, I'd tell you, I think I've finally figured out what that is. It's not just about making money. Um, but I say that's definitely my why. So I think I've discovered my like big reason for why we get up and deal with what we deal with every day.
Absolutely. So if you could go back in time to your first day in real estate, knowing everything you know now, what are probably one or two things you would go back and tell Marc Harbour day one? Because again, a lot of agents in the business just getting started. What advice can you give them and yourself back on day one, having done this now for an extended period of time and obviously doing it at a high level, one of the best agents in the country?
Man, I would tell myself a lot of things. Do I just have to pick one?
We'll give you two.
Okay. All right. Um, you're headed in the right, like you're headed in the right direction. If you, because if I would tell myself, if you work as hard as you did at your previous job, and you weren't given the opportunities that you thought that you should have got, if you work as hard as that and you continue to just get better and better and better, you can't, you not only can you not fail, but you won't fail. Um, but I don't know, man, that I would have to take, that's a really good question, because there's so many things I've learned and so many people that I've met. But I would say, um, don't stop believing it's possible, because they're going to be there. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to come across people that, maybe weren't the best, that you wish you didn't come across. There's, situations that are going to happen. You're going to lose sleep. It's going to be hard. Um, but I would probably say that the, the dream that you have is worth it, and it will be hard, but it's going to be worth it because of the person that you're going to become.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you so much. I mean, so many people, when they're first getting started, I always tell people, people overestimate what they can do in like a month or a year and significantly underestimate what a decade or half a decade compounding year after year of getting better. I mean, I literally look at you now from the person that I met day one, and you're literally a different person. The way you look, the way you sound, the way you act, the way you carry yourself. I mean, it's one of the coolest things in coaching to watch someone grow year after year, not just in real estate, but growing your relationships. You're a better dad. It's cool to watch you. And so I think one of the last things I want to touch on is, what does that look like for you in creating balance between work and obviously your family? Because again, a lot of agents struggle with, how do you have a great, extraordinary business, and how do you become an extraordinary dad and husband?
For me, and I know it may be different for other people, but for me, um, I was fortunate enough where, obviously, my wife, when she was growing up, her dad was in real estate. So I was blessed with the fact of, if I have to, if it's 5 o'clock and there's a house that comes up, you've got clients that have been looking for months, and it's like they're ready to, give their firstborn for this house. It's like, you got to get up and go. So, I mean, I would have never been able to get as far without my wife, and her kind of, um, you know, picking up the slack at home a lot of the time. She would tell you it's a lot of the time. But I would say that understanding and being on the same page with your spouse and understanding that marriage is not 50-50, that some days it's 80-20. Some days I'm like, I've got 20% and Brianna looks at me and she picks up the other 80. And on some days I can give 80 and she's like, I've got 20 for you. I'm like, that's fine. I'll take the 20 and I'll give you the 80. So if communicating and understanding that it's not you versus them, it's you both versus the world. And I think once we started to think like that together, the fights, really they really don't happen. It's, what would turn into big fights 10 years ago are just conversations. And, we always find a common ground, and it's typically me just saying yes to whatever she's asking. But I would say being on the same page and understanding that sometimes you got to pick up their slack and sometimes they have to pick up yours. So,
well, that's amazing advice for anyone out there looking to create that balance. So going forward, the next 5 years, 10 years, have you thought any more about how big of a business you want to create? Because obviously
I have.
Getting the next level, the next step is actually knowing what does that actually look like, creating a map, a business plan, but you have to have an idea. Have you thought a little bit about what that looks like in terms of transactions, money? Like, what does that look like for you?
You said in the next 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the next 5 years, I know where I'm going next year. I'll close. I'm on track for 50 transactions this year. Next year, the goal is 100. But I would say the next 5 years, averaging anywhere between 100 and 150 transactions, having a not too big, but a good, efficient, effective, small group of people around me that are all of the same mindset of we're going to go out and win, and burn the world down. So I think, but having a small team of people that, want to win with me, I think, that's definitely not only the dream, but that's definitely, I'm putting plans and stuff in motion already to make that happen, definitely within the next 5 years.
Well, I know you can do it. So let me ask you, for anyone thinking about getting into coaching, what do you think has been probably the biggest benefit that you've gotten, and what you would tell someone if they said, is coaching right for me?
I would ask them, do you enjoy having a better life and making more money? And if the answer is yes, then I would definitely recommend it. I would say that accountability, having an accountability partner, huge, but mainly having somebody, there's something to be said about having somebody in your corner that has not only gone down the road that you want to go down, but has actually drawn the map for you to get there. So having somebody like that in your corner is a lot of points invaluable. You can't put a value on it.
Yeah, I see so many people that are always trying to reinvent the wheel. And the truth is that, you got to find someone that has already done it and then pay them so that you can do it much faster. It's like, it's taken me 24 years to get to where I'm at. And you probably can get there, in 5 to 7. And it's so cool to watch people be able to take what I've learned and be able to do it much faster, much more efficient, and in a much better way. So I appreciate you giving me your time and the advice that you've given everybody else. Again, if someone ever wanted to contact you and ask you any questions, would you like them to call you, text you, email you? How would you like anyone out there that had any questions to reach out to you?
Oh man, I am not a hard person to get a hold of. You can call me, text me, you can email me, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. You can call our office, 540-899-2277. It'll either be me or my lovely father-in-law answering the phone, but we got your back either way.
Great. Well, I appreciate it, Mark. Great having you, and look forward to having you back on for future episodes.
It's been an honor, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.